Okay, well, hello everybody. My name is Calvin Niles, and I'm going to talk today about why stories can make kindness go viral. I'm not going to use slides, I'm just going to talk, and we're going to have a conversation, and then we're going to do a little bit of meditation at the end, and then I'll invite some Q&A as I usually do. So, what makes stories so, I suppose, contagious? And how does that overlap with kindness? So, I'm going to actually talk a little bit about why that's the case. So, the first thing I want to talk about actually is, share a story. What's the better way to prove why stories are so contagious than by sharing one, right? And one of my favorite stories of all time is called The Wise Woman. And it starts with this wise woman, of course, who was trundling through the mountains one day and she stumbled across a stone. And she stumbled across this really precious stone. She picked it up and plopped it in her bag. Okay. So it's her ordinary route. The next day, she was walking through the mountains. She encountered a beggar. So the beggar approaches her and he says, excuse me, miss, please, can I have something to eat? Can I have some change? Can you help? So she says, oh, of course. And as soon as she opens her bag to give him her last sandwich, he saw the precious stone in her bag. And he then went, actually, thought to himself, if I get that precious stone, I'll be set for life. Actually, can I not have the sandwich? Can I have the precious stone instead? So without batting an eyelid, the woman says, of course you can. And she gave him the precious stone and kept the sandwich. So off he goes, happy as Larry, and he's really enjoying his day. And he's thinking, blimey, I'm set up for life here, I've got everything made. And then something struck him. And he went, I need to catch her tomorrow. And I need to ask her a question. So he goes back to her the next day in the mountains. And he saw her and he asked her, he says, excuse me, I really have to ask you a question. Yesterday, you offered me this precious stone, and I really thought I'd be set for life here. But I want to return it to you. I want to return it to you, and I want you to give me instead the quality in you that allowed you to give it to me in the first place. And this is really the epitome of kindness. This idea that we have within us, the gem itself wasn't the stone, the gem is in us. And this is part of the reason why I think not only kindness, but stories overlap and why they're so contagious. Because, of course, her generosity, her kindness has changed the way he perceived and received things thereafter. So what's really interesting here is, just an interesting statistic, is that 23% cortisol fall has been recorded in some research in people who are kind. Those of us who demonstrate kindness are actually lowering our stress as a result. And there's a 44% chance of us actually living longer, or shall I say, our chances of dying are decreased by 44%, according to Christine Carter, who wrote the book on raising happiness. So what I'm saying is that we have this not only innate ability and gem inside of us to be kind, to share, and to demonstrate that in our actions, but it is actually contagious. So that leads me on to my next point about giving and just giving. I want to share a story with you of my son. So my son, he's 14 now, and I started doing this activity with him annually as part of our giving back work. Every Christmas, they get for thanks to their mum, of course, gives them all these presents and spoils them, which is fantastic. And me, who their mum used to call Scrooge once upon a time, which is obviously not true. But I do have this thing about really valuing the ability to receive and give simultaneously. So I wanted to take my son on an experience. So there is this thing that happens once a year, and it's a generous group of people have taken this concept from the US, I believe, and started to do it in the UK, and it's called Basket Brigade. And some of you may have heard about Basket Brigade before. So if you haven't, what Basket Brigade is it's something that started in the US around Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. And what you essentially do is people who are needy and people who don't have, you create these baskets of goods. In America, I think when it started, it was around Thanksgiving. But for us, we themed it around Christmas in the UK. And a lot of generous people get together and devote their time to creating a special Christmas for those people in need. And it's a huge logistical exercise. You know, I just go as a participant, but I took my son. And I mean, I think at least 1,000 people must show up each year. And, you know, everyone descends on this campus. You know, it's highly organized, or, you know, reasonably organized, but people get together and they get roles and they make these Christmas baskets to then deliver at the end of the day after a whole day of putting these things together. And I'm talking, you know, thousands of baskets get made. So I took my son with me, and, you know, of course, it's the festive spirit, you know, it's fantastic. And everyone's like, you know, singing and cheering, and the organizers are on the tannoy, and everybody is really in a loving space. And, you know, everybody just is so, I think, touchy-feely with each other, because people are just feeling so much love, you know. And I volunteer to be one of the drivers. So I take my son with me, and we go and deliver these baskets at the end of the day. Now, not everybody drives and delivers, not everybody has the time or the capability, but I wanted my son to see the act of giving, not just packing the baskets and having the jolly time, but the act of giving. So off we go, and we went to a few different houses. I think we probably delivered 3 or 4 baskets on the way back home. And this woman opened the door. Well, first, actually, it was a man who opened the door. He couldn't speak English properly. I think he might have spoken like a Russian language or something sounding like that. And he then called his daughter. So she comes and she says, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, it's just a gift for you. I'm just a delivery driver." And she says, "Well, who sent it? This is the 3rd year we've got this." And she got really antsy, and she was not pleased that these gifts were being given to her, but she didn't know who they were coming from, and so on and so forth. And my son, who at the time was, I think, 12, he looked taken aback. Of course, he was expecting this woman to just be like, "Oh, thank you so much," so on and so forth. You know, "This is so amazing." Oh, you know, and this was great experience for him and for me, to just remind ourselves that the act of giving is purest when it is not in expectation of something back. And that really hit home for my son in that experience, which was, I suppose, the bigger lesson, that we just ought to give. And when we give, that spreads, as I made with my first point, in the way of contagion, such as the law of nature and viruses, as Shamash rightly points out. So why does this all happen? Why does the act of giving, even when the recipient is unaware, even when the recipient isn't terribly happy, even when they don't care, that's irrelevant, because this kindness, the element of kindness, is done because the gem is inside of us, just like the wise woman. And I am sure that that ripples out across other people's behavior. And why does it do that? So kindness then and stories work hand in hand, right? They click together and they overlap in a way, in a, I suppose, a chemical way, in the way we respond. So I want to talk about just 4 quick chemicals in the body that you might have heard, and many of you are practitioners and people who work in this space, or people who pay attention to well-being. And we know that neuroscience has been advancing, and we've heard about serotonin, we've heard about endorphins, we've heard about dopamine, we've heard about oxytocin as being key drivers of wonderful, loving behavior, well-being, and happiness. So we actually can share that now with this public knowledge that kindness is a big generator of oxytocin, the cuddle chemical. And we know that is such a big part of empathy in the way stories are told. When stories are told and we share ourselves authentically, and we have a person or a character whose experience is identifiable, we are seeing the same responses in the human body. And that increases our chances of wanting to share even more. The propensity to give and to be kind to someone else is increased. So they say that, you know, a problem shares a problem halved, and a joy shares a joy doubled. It is like kindness is one of those few things that when you share it, it actually increases, you know. And stories are very similar in the same way. So it's my contention that we should be using stories then and kindness together. We should be using and sharing stories of kindness, not in a braggadocious way, not in a way to say, oh, well done me, look how amazing I did, but because we know that stories matter. Stories matter to the way we think, the way we feel, the way we interpret the world. And if we want kindness to spread, we have to share those stories too. Endorphins are closely linked to both stories and to sharing and kindness and demonstrating kindness. And we've seen that, you know, the two E's, endorphins and oxytocin. So endorphins, oxytocin are two key chemicals that we know that come from kindness and stories as well. There is some stuff about serotonin, which we know is the well-being chemical. This is thing that looks after our mood and brings the sunshine in the winter. You know, I mean, it's quite a nice day actually now, which is good because it was very gray this morning, and I was hoping for some kindness to rain down. So we got some of that. So this is the second point. Then we just give because we know that it shares, that it spreads, that it doubles when we share. I'm actually just going to share my screen with you because I want to share a couple of things that have happened which I think might interest you. Just get that up. So this is Carlos Davis, and he is a comedian in America, and this is a story of a random act of kindness. And he's a let me just bring that up properly for you. All right, that's probably better. So this guy pulls up to a petrol station in America, and he saw this woman paying for her petrol with pennies, and he saw her crying and in distress. So he and his friend, he went over to her and he says, "Let me help you with your cost of your bill." And she says, "Oh, thank you so much." You know, and she, you know, this is an actual picture of her from his profile on Twitter. And she says, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much. How did you know?" And he says, "Well, how did you know what?" She says, "Well, my husband died last week and I'm experiencing a lot of difficulty." Of course, she's in emotional turmoil. And this guy and his friend were able to alleviate some of that pain through just random generosity, random act of kindness. Here's another story in Australia. This was in 2015. And a man was running for the train and he slipped and he fell and he got caught.
Your slides are not showing actually. I don't know. Do you have slides there?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm sure. Isn't that what can you see?
Just see you.
No, oh, okay. Let me try sharing that again, shall I?
Try unsharing it and sharing it again.
All right. Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. Thank you.
It's okay.
I'll try that again.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Can you see the full picture, or are you seeing? What are you seeing?
I can see your things underneath as well, your notes. So if you click that, click on that.
Right, lovely. Okay, I'll just recap then. So as I was talking about Carlos, this is Carlos that you can see here, and Carlos is the comedian who encountered this woman going through her distress, and he was able to save her from some turmoil when she was trying to pay with the pennies. So catching up to where I was, this is in Australia, and this guy was running for a train. He slipped, he fell, and he got caught between the train and the platform. And through the random generosity and kindness of the people around, they all muscled in, and they essentially pushed this train to get this man out. Quite incredible, really. And something even more recent. So this guy here, the one who you can see in the front, sort of looking back and grimacing, he is a Spanish triathlete who was actually just competing in Toronto in September. And the guy behind him is sort of gesturing, kind of like, oh my God, hey, what's going on? He'd taken a wrong turn in this marathon, in this race. And the guy was actually winning before he took the wrong turn. So the Spanish triathlete actually stopped right at the finish line and let the guy take his rightful place in front through this kindness. And he received all these plaudits for it, and it became such an infectious story. And these are 3 stories that have infected Twitter, Facebook, social media, even the mainstream news channels showed these things. So the reason why I'm sharing that is because even the big things that we see matter, but especially the little things. And the way we can be more sharing and kindful in our activities, it doesn't have to be the big things like that. It only takes the tiny tweaks. It only takes the small acts of opening the door for someone or helping somebody up the stairs, And finally, then, I just want to say, so just recapping, so we know that actually stories and kindness are contagious. We've seen that stories and kindness generate the same responses in the body, and they tend to infect us, and we want to share in the river of the chemicals that we're experiencing. And secondly, just give. Just give. Doesn't matter whether the person is demonstrating how grateful they are. They are where they're at, but we can just fight little things. It doesn't have to be those big, fantastic things like moving a train or paying for someone's dinner, even though you can do that as well. And if you can move a train, brilliant. I mean, you might be on something special there, but just those tiny little things and acts of kindness can really help to make the world a better place. My last point then is there is a very close link, and I'm sure you heard this before earlier this morning, between gratitude and kindness. And the more gratitude that we practice is the more kind and the more inclined to be kind that we actually are. So I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes then, maybe 3 minutes or so, just taking a little breathing space meditation and tapping into our gratitude in this moment right now. So, wherever you are tuning into this talk, I'd like you to just be present and engaged for the next 3 minutes, whatever you might be doing if you can. Making a definite change to your posture, to be alert. And when you're ready, just close your eyes. Just tune into your breath now, as it is, without changing anything at all. Noticing the breath as you inhale. Just noticing if your breathing is deep or shallow, however it might be. As you exhale, just paying attention as the breath exits the body. You start to notice your natural breathing rhythm. Feeling your body settling into a nice place of calm. I'd like you to bring to mind one thing that you're grateful for in this moment. It might be a relationship. It might be something as simple as your next breath. It might be something that happened recently for you in your life. Just tuning in to that one thing that you can focus your mind on. You're grateful for something, even the smallest thing. Just holding that in mind as you breathe in. Breathing in with gratitude. And as you exhale, making space for opportunity to be grateful again at the next inhalation. Grateful that we can always take these moments to stop, be present with ourselves, remind ourselves for those things that we're grateful for. As you take your next breath, just make a long, deep inhalation on this next breath. And exhale fully, feeling your body softening and alive with gratitude in this moment. When you're ready, feel free to open your eyes and come back after we've just taken a small opportunity to just touch our sense of gratitude, which awakens the kind potential that lies within all of us. And I would encourage you to share stories of kindness, whether they're your own experience, whether they're someone else's experience, because stories and kindness spread in very similar ways. Good. So I'd like to invite you then to ask any questions or engage in whatever way might be right. And I don't know if Shamash, if I need to hand back to you or.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you very much for that session. Wow, it was, I think I did this basket brigade. I definitely did it a few years ago. We might have both been at the same event because it was quite a while ago. But I remember you brought back amazing memories, and nice to think about that dose, the dopamine and the oxytocin, and how it links to all that, and amazing stories. So I really enjoyed that. Let's see, someone got his life got saved when Ken Ravenscroft saved my life when I got into trouble in a swimming pool when I was 6, says somebody in the chat. I never thanked him. I wish I had done so. Eva says, thank you, Calvin. Always love your stories.
Thank you.
Elspeth says, thanks, Calvin. Great to hear you speaking again. That was lovely meditation. I love that you've encouraged your son to give. It's so easy for them to get too much.
Tell me about it.
Great voice, says Leslie.
Thanks,
Uh,
Leslie.
and Reggie says, thanks. That was great.
Reggie. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. No, I really like that. Those stories are really. I was amazed about that train. So did they actually
Mm.
manage to do it? They
Yeah,
lifted.
just by sheer elbow grease, determination, and the coming together of the people, which is a beautiful thing about it. It's like one person and another, then another, and everybody just sees the potential to free this person.
Yeah.
And they literally, just out of guile and sheer determination and togetherness, was able to lift the side of the train. Like, I
Wow.
mean, it probably just needed a little bit, but they freed this guy. It's quite incredible. This is 6 years ago, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still a remarkable tale. And
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, you can Google that and you'll see a lot of random acts of kindness like that, which is like, for me, it's like a double whammy, right? I mean, I haven't seen any research into this, but I'm gonna just believe it for myself because I like the idea. If you're kind and you get all of these well-being chemicals flowing through the body and feel good chemicals, which are good for us to proliferate kindness, and stories do the same thing, then I'm going to argue that actually you're doubling the effect when you share it in a story.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Exactly.
Because you're doing them both, and people ought to do this more, to spread the kindness. And this is one of the reticence about sharing stories. There people sometimes feel, maybe I shouldn't share that because that's bragging, or maybe I shouldn't you know talk about that because, well, actually, why are we sharing this? We're sharing this to make kindness go viral.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. That's exactly
Mm.
it. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's a really fascinating topic. We wish we could discuss it more. Maybe we can do a whole mini event or something about the whole idea of stories and kindness and mindfulness and how we can share stories more effectively and which
Mm.
ones. And I can understand how sometimes people do an act of kindness and they don't want to share it as well. I can also understand that there's something beautiful about that, but there's also great beauty in sharing stories too. So I think maybe there's a bit of a balance to be struck there.
Absolutely.
Um, there's loads of cool comments coming through. Stomach says, thank you, Calvin. I always thought to share what acts of kindness you do would come across as bragging, but you make a great point. Sharing is caring. Absolutely. I think one way of thinking about it is like, do we enjoy reading stories of kindness? Do we enjoy receiving them? And I think almost everyone would say, yeah, we'd love receiving them. So then almost we need to be on the other side from time to time too, and be the giver of those stories of kindness so that others can receive them as well. So
Absolutely.